Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning, Deborah Leanne.
I was I was just telling someone that we have to start every morning with our cheers with our coffee because it really is a morning chat. So, welcome to Morning Musings with Deborah Leanne,
And Suzanne Joy.
and we are here today to talk to you. And I am like still a little reeling about this from the Richard Rudd Gene Keys book. We have been playing with the pulse every week, and we talk about it in terms of how it applies to us in an everyday. How do you take a mystical concept and bring it down into real life feelings and energies and physicality as well as the spiritual? So this week's Gene Key, would you like to?
Sure. This week's Gene Key is Gene Key 54. And we talk about this. There's three states of consciousness within this Gene Key. And the lower acidic state, or the lower shadow state, is greed. And the acidic state is ascension. And we get there through the gift of aspiration.
Right. So, as we've spoken in the past, the shadow is kind of our universal playground. It's where we all kind of share in this. And it may be a bigger portion of your life based on where, if it shows up in your personal life's work or profile. However, we all get to sit with greed and we all get to feel the ramifications of it. And now what we're noticing is this never having enough thing, how it's destroying our planet, how it is creating this huge have and have nots. Well, there's not very many haves. There's a lot more have nots. And business, that has continued to grow and grow and grow to the point where it no longer has a soul, a lot of the big, huge global business entities. And what happens when it gets to a place where we finally go, isn't there more to life than just making money, spending money, investing money, accumulating more and more and more, buying more businesses? So, and one of the things that I've been talking a lot about lately is, when you notice when you're driving down highways, especially around small towns, but in big ones too, how many storage unit places there are.
Mm.
Why do people need? This is beyond my comprehension because I don't understand that. I mean, I can't stand when I have too much. I have to like clean out the closet, or like right now we have so much food. I'm like,
You have an abundance. That's good.
we do have an abundance, but now it is time to cull, to organize, to go, okay, let's put, these 3 bags of rice can go in a pantry, but they need to be in glass or something where they won't, like the bags won't deteriorate. So I'm wondering, this is such a human thing. And it's also in the codon ring of seeking, of course, because
we're all seeking, and that those six keys that are in that codon, they're all different pathways to God. This just happens to be one of them. I mean, we need greed, and I'm not saying greed is good. I'm just saying greed gets us to that space of where we really then identify what is essential to us.
and what do we want more of?
Right.
So this is fascinating to me because I was thinking that money, has always been kind of an important thing for me growing up without having enough in our family. However, then it became, I wanted more love. I wanted more recognition. So what am I going to do? And this is where we sell our souls. And this is where I think it's really fascinating about how, and one of the things that I read about in this chapter was about when you're in the space of operating from greed, you only want to associate with people who will create more opportunity for you to make more money, for you to develop your business, for you to grow. So the whole networking thing is, how can I use you to get more of, so you, then there's no trust because everybody knows that everybody else is out for themselves. And what this creates is such a, I think this is part of the lack of trust and connection that we have on our planet right now. It's hard for us to trust in another, like they really have my best interest at heart as well as their own.
Yeah.
Does that make
Well,
sense? And that was really hard to read for me. I mean, I know it's true, but you know, when you hit those truths and you're like, ooh, right in the belly.
yeah. And well, and greed is also, that's, if it's in the reactive nature where it's just like more, 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 that's when somebody has closed down their heart
Yeah.
and it's making them incapable of having those true connection and relationships.
Yeah.
So they just can't get enough, but won't be vulnerable or won't, they just are wanting more. And
Yeah.
I love that Richard had really said, this greed thing doesn't just happen with money. This greed thing happens with love. It happens on an emotional level, relational level, and a spiritual level.
Yeah. There is that um continuous seeking for higher consciousness, to have a deeper relationship with the divine. I mean, there's a whole nother level of greed where how much more, and he talks about the kundalini energy and how it can burn people up. If you're learning and growing through the yoga process to attain higher levels of spirituality, enlightenment, whatever, how very often people are like, I just want to go to the top, man. I want to light up all my energy centers. And then they end up really activating the pain body, because the pain, our bodies aren't designed to move at the speed of light, like our spirit, our heart, our, our yearning to be one with the divine. That's great. But then there's this embodiment piece that we tend to forget until it reminds us.
And then you're like, oh, wow, I'm feeling a lot. And
Yeah. And I just read a book about a teacher who was all about embodying intimacy. And it was through dance and movement, but about how witnessing another and being in that unified field thing before we had those words, and how her last 10 years of life, she literally burned from the inside. I mean, she was one of those that just, she totally ascended from her physicality into the spiritual realm, but it was not a fun path. It was a very painful path. And that's one of the things that reminded me of, how can we not be so greedy? How can we allow the experiences to come to us without more, more, more?
right. And again, that's that it's reminding me that the essential about slowing down and being present and letting life live through us, as opposed to feeling like you've got to go grasp at life
Yeah.
and more, um
Yeah. Energetically, I was told that my system was one of those that was a gulping of life. Like it didn't like sip and savor. It was a, I'm gonna throw down this whole cup of coffee,
yeah. Well, and
versus,
I think to remind you, just we just talked about naturalness not too long ago. I mean, that's really your true beingness. And so yeah, we can play in this playland of greed and like more and more. And when you're in the repressive nature, you're unambitious. It's kind of like you went for it and you wanted you had this ambition and you like get into that playland, but then you become disillusioned and then you just kind of give up.
yeah. And I can understand that one because I've done both. And I feel like there's times where it's like, why bother? You know?
Well, I find this interesting too, because I kind of have played in that playland before where I've denied myself.
Uh,
And it's people who deny their material needs, and they seek their spiritual nature to the detriment of their physical nature.
Yeah. And this
It,
is that whole, I think the reason why we're talking about embodiment so much more than we ever have is because we can't just be that spiritual thing, and we can't just be our emotions running wild. We need to
right.
hold it all and be the complex being that we are. Speak, or did you look at all at the programming partner, because this is fascinating to me.
Yes, and I have that key in my profile. And
Does it
it's all
happen to
about,
play with where I have this key in mind?
yeah. So the programming partner of this is the 53rd shadow of immaturity. So, that's where I feel like we're on this evolutionary path. That one happens to be in my spiritual quotient. But the interesting thing is, when you think about immaturity and you think about greed, it's like our our evolution, we haven't matured enough to understand that what affects one affects all.
Yeah.
We haven't grasped the totality of our experience and how we affect one another.
Yeah.
That's where I think, even in business, there's so many now businesses that are very heart-centered and are realizing we can make a profit, and we also can benefit other people
And take care of the planet.
and
Whoa.
serve. Yes, like we're not detrimental to the planet. That's the most sustainable, regenerative way of being. So that's where that maturity is coming into.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think that we're playing in this very interesting time, that we're moving beyond the greed. And yes, I do understand. Richard pointed out in his 64 ways that there is 62 people out of 3.6 billion people that have as much wealth as the poorest half of the entire world population.
Yeah.
So there is this huge, like,
Disparity. Mm-hmm.
disparity, like really weird. But taking that away from those people isn't going to solve the issue. It has to happen internally within each one of us to be able to understand our own value and our own expression of the divine here.
Right. And growing up that immaturity. I just keep thinking of kids. They're like, I want another piece of candy. Can I have another piece of candy? Can I have another piece of candy or more ice cream? And then they end up getting sick. Right. So they're not paying attention to, yeah, it tastes good in the moment. I want more, more, more. And there's
Right.
a fear that if I don't eat it now, I'll never get another piece again. I mean, where is,
Yeah.
right, but
Like,
that's all for another day. But I
right.
wanted to bring up the fact that they aren't learning the lessons. That's the immaturity thing versus, oh, when we start realizing, you know what, all my needs are met. I don't need anything more, but I want, let's play with the aspiration, the gift
Right.
of what do I want to be more of? What do I want to create more of? How do I, and I love that, just like inspiration and expiration, and um, it's got spirit in it. It's got the breath in it.
Yes.
And
I
so
love.
expiration is, how am I
Mhm.
going to, what do I want more of besides things and money and
Right.
yeah.
So I love how he says, it's breathing in fuel to seek something higher.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so that gift is um, allowing us to, how do we serve humanity in raising consciousness? That's our aspiration of our divinity in this now. I kind of
Mm,
feel like that's where the, building the heaven on earth kind of comes into play. Um, yeah, it's all about higher aspirations. And he says people are now realizing that businesses with a holistic perspective can even be more successful than a greed driven perspective, because
yeah.
it's literally holistic. I mean, we're taking into account the people that work there, we're taking into account the resources we use, we take into account the planet and how we're affecting and working with the planet as
And
opposed
each other, and how
and
we don't take advantage of each other. This is when I was first hiring young people right out of college or grad school, and how when they came in, they totally shifted the culture, which was such a workaholic nonprofit. We have to serve. How can we serve? You know, I mean, there was a guilt and a sacrifice built into it that we have to work hard to take care of those people that we're serving. And these young people came in and they're like, you know what? I have purpose, but at 5 o'clock, I go home, and I have purpose, but I take an hour lunch every day. I was like, I'd watch them at 10 to 12 go, yeah, I'll meet you outside. We'll meet it by the lake or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sitting there shoving a sandwich down at my desk, and they're all, and I hired all these people. I was like, what? Okay, I need to learn this. It annoyed me that they would do that, and they would listen to music while they were at work, and they were getting their stuff done.
well, that's what
They
they were
did it
there
with
to teach, right?
yeah, there was a balance and a practice of taking care of self. But the other thing that's really, really big is our young people taught us that they want to be involved in a way they feel purposeful and contributing. And we didn't, in human resources, that was never a very big thing about, no, you just come in, do your job, and that's what we hire you for, that's what we pay you for. And now that has blossomed into, you take care of the people, they'll stay working with you. And right now we're all fighting for good people. So it's like, thank you for the culture shift, young people. So we
Yeah.
are growing, and
Yeah.
and I was going to say evolutionizing, but that's not, what are we doing? We're evolving.
Yeah.
Yet it feels like even the Pope's call right now to love one another and love the planet is still falling on a lot of deaf ears that are like, how can I get more things for less price? And I am sick every time I see those I mean, those apps where you can get this for 99 cents. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's just more crap.
Yeah.
It's going to end up in the landfill.
Well, and I know that whenever I feel that, I like just put my hand on my heart and like, somebody is not feeling rich
Hmm.
in their beingness.
Oh, you mean like have compassion?
Yeah.
Being angry with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like what
And where is that in me? I think that is key, because
mm,
if I'm seeing it and it's annoying me, I have a match. So what part of me is not feeling nourished? What part of me needs more love? What part of me needs to feel like it's, you know, being seen and valued and important?
yeah.
Thank you for that. I needed a reset. I can go off on a little tangent. So anything else about aspiration before we talk about ascension, or do you?
Um, let's see. Anything else that wants to pop up?
There was so much stuff about embodiment piece and
There,
physical piece, and
yeah, there was a lot of that. I do appreciate he talked a lot about the business aspect though, because I think that's going to really shift a lot of people. Um, because it's going to move us to a much more sustainable world when there's heart-led leaders. And it says, this shift in perspective from self-serving to community serving is giving birth to a whole new paradigm in business itself.
oh man, and
And
it's so true. I mean, the
and
whole conscious capitalism movement, and
yeah. And I remember being at that space where, I talked about enjoy sustainability, and I am a part of that now, just my beingness of sustainability and being one with the earth and connected to it and making choices on a daily basis of what I'm purchasing and what I'm contributing my energy to,
yeah,
and being in alignment with myself so that I am walking my talk. I am doing the things that I feel are in alignment with me and my spirit. So
And it
That's
feels better when we're not out of alignment. I think that being out of alignment is what creates so much uncomfortable energy in our system, or pain in our bodies, or frenetic energy in our relationships. So that alignment and making choices based on what's true for me, so key.
yeah.
I have a one thing that I wanted to read is about the with this 54th city. This is a quote directly from the book. As we have seen at all levels, there is a need for deep grounding within the material realm. So even though we're talking about ascension, which is a very high spiritual plane, is how we tend to look at it, can we have ascension right here in
Exactly.
these bodies on this planet Earth? Can we
And
bring that higher energy down into the 3D land?
yeah, this is really beautiful, because it's mastering the physical worldly plane. It's
Yeah.
mastering, it's mastery. And when we there aren't, obviously there are no shortcuts in this path.
No.
It's the serpent path, right? It's the
Yeah.
spiral. And so um and everybody's is different. That's where, you can't compare. Please don't compare yourself to anybody and where they are on their path versus where you are on yours, please.
Oh, that's another one of those. To me, it feels greedy and seeking that, there's a hierarchy to it. And that's a power dynamic that does show up in this gene key of, I have more than you, I'm better than you. I'm more spiritual than you, I'm better than you. I'm more whatever. And I can see how I play into that. Like my mother and her mother and her mother were always big on, you're young and beautiful, and then you have value. Then as you get older, you have less value. And I'm like, now that I'm older, I'm really like learning at how I or looking at how I learned that and trying to, that's not true. That's not me.
Yeah, take off those layers. That's some
Literally.
old gunk, right?
Yeah. So how, and then, but looking at how we judge others based on their physicality, their age, their demographic, their skin color, their religious beliefs, their sexual beliefs.
Yeah, that's when you can't. That's when you got to take a pause and say, "Can I walk in their shoes for a minute? Hold on." And
Yeah.
can I try on their shoes for a minute?
And that we just talked about that in the last gene key, how important it is if you just come back and pause and breathe, how you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not true. That's that greed thing talking. That's that whatever shadow talking.
Yeah,
And it's informed me and helped me to become this person today. And how is it going to affect my behavior in this moment
yeah.
as we pause and take a breath?
And this key is directly related to the tailbone. So it's very rooted and grounded.
I'd like to invite everyone to feel their tailbone.
Yeah.
If you're sitting, it's easier because you can kind of rock back and forth and go, hello, there's the foundation of my whole structure right there. And we don't appreciate, remember, ground into that part of ourselves very often. And it actually is the root of our security, right? So if you look at the energetic component for that part of the body, how do we send love, and how do we know that we are completely, and this is the part about sitting, how we're held and supported. So
Yeah,
breathing into that. Oh yeah.
it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miss Deborah.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there just think of one, two, or three.
Oh man, it's one or two, but I don't know. Two.
Okay. So today we're going to be playing with Rebecca Campbell's Starseed Oracle.
Cool. She's been showing up a lot lately. I'm
Well,
picking her, aren't I?
she's either this deck or the other deck, which is the Lightworkers deck.
Yeah, I love them both.
And this is just a message for us as we move through to ascension through
Yeah, let's bring ascension into our bodies. Like, how can we hold that energy or visit that energy more and more every day? I mean, getting to a full ascension state,
well, we wouldn't be here anymore.
right? We wouldn't be in these bodies, but to visit it and to hang out in the aspiration space of how can I create more beauty here on this planet?
And can I just say, like, one of the things Richard said something about, this is about physical ascension like Jesus, and my thing is in becoming eternal. I want to recognize we are eternal beings.
We already are.
Mm-hmm. We already are. We don't have to like go anywhere to recognize our multidimensional beauty.
And why do we think that this is keeping us?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm laughing because I'm like, I want to kind of do the opposite of ascension into our truth, our essence, our love, our conscious, Christ consciousness, that compassion for all space.
Deborah, top, middle, or bottom?
Bottom.
Okay.
Because we're like talking root here. So
root. I remember. Ooh, let me grab this for just a second. I remember. I remember soul plan, the fated life versus the destiny life. Excuse me.
What is she sitting on?
It's like she's got the whole universe in front of her and all around her, but she's grounded. Okay.
All right.
So this is I remember soul plan, the fated life versus the destiny life. There was a moment before you were born when you chose the conditions of your life you're living right now. When you plotted out these exact moments along the timeline of your life. We live in a world of free will, and therefore these moments become our destiny only through saying yes. The fated life is the one you were born into. The destiny life is the one our soul chooses, and it takes courage and faith. If you pull this, it's because you're likely now face to face with the choice to follow the destiny life over the fated life, to trust the path your soul is calling you toward, and to remember that this moment was prearranged on your life's timeline. You may find yourself at a crossroads, at a moment when you're being called to make a decision, to keep walking the perfectly laid out path before you, or to choose the one less traveled. You may be facing a changing career, a new relationship, a difficult decision, or something else that requires courage and faith. You're being invited to remember your soul's greater plan and to surrender to it. And when you're confronted with a path that's undefined, it's normal for you to doubt or to rear its head. In fact, this is certainly a sign that you're facing your soul's greater plan. Every hero in his or her life's journey comes eye to eye with doubt, and the only way is through. It's all part of the larger plan. So you're being asked, what are you being called to do to surrender to your soul's plan?
I would call that aspiration for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
thank you.
I really love that. Thank you. I would like to close on a contemplation, just an invitation to how can we share our life's energy in a way that's creating more of the world that we want. And you inspired this today, Suzanne, because you invited me to look at things a little differently. And I think what happens is we get stuck in the old programming, and then it's hard to shift out. So when we start feeling that tightness, that constriction, I need more, they're not giving enough, they're being greedy or selfish or whatever, or within ourselves, can we open and find more love in that space? Yeah.
Thank you, Deborah Leanne.
Thanks you. This is, we couldn't do this alone. That's not what we're not designed to do this alone, by the way, everybody. So take good care, everyone. Much love. See you soon. Oh, and by the way, Happy New Year.